Well, hey, Soul Conference, it is so good to be with you. I'm coming to you right now from my living room where I am filming this. My three little ones are asleep, so I've got a chance to share my story. My name is Sam, I am 31, and I'm a mum to three little boys who are 6, 4, and 2. And my husband and our kids attend a phenomenal little church called Anchor Southwest in Panania. My story is one of wrestling with anxiety, doubt and loss and striving, but the overarching theme of my story is God's faithfulness in my life. And where else to start but the beginning? I grew up in a very quintessential Australian family, and I was the youngest of 4, and none of my family were believers, but we'll get to that a little bit later in my story. And I want to tell you about the first time I encountered God. I was on a youth camp back in 2009 when I was 14 years old, and I kind of awoke to the beauty of Jesus and what it means to actually follow him. And I gave my life to Christ that weekend, and it wasn't very loud and it wasn't very fast, but it was just the beginning of God doing a very steady and consistent work in my life. Life moved pretty fast from there. I met my now husband at 16 years old, and at 18 we joined a church plant. And yeah, God really used that time to stoke and stir my faith in really significant ways. I got married very young, just a baby at only 19 years old, and right as my husband and I were building our life up together, I came up against a very unexpected but a very crippling anxiety. I was only 21 at the time and was working as a nurse in an emergency department, likely seeing many things that I certainly wasn't ready for. And my once very bubbly and very confident demeanor got a little bit crushed by the brokenness that I saw in the world. And that anxiety was really foreign to me, and I didn't really know where to place it as a Christian. And I didn't realize it at the time, but God would certainly use that to draw me towards himself and make me feel safe in his love, even when I didn't feel safe within my own mind. And so what I learned during that time was 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9. And it says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me." And whilst I've done, a lot of work on my mental health, and time has also been a very healing thing, I don't want to get up here and act like I've conquered anxiety. I certainly haven't, and it still rears its head. But now I try to remain much more curious. The anxiety is like a bit of an engine light for me, and a reminder to focus on what God might be teaching me in that season and in my weakness. A few years later, and I become a mum to our oldest, Spencer. And at this point, I've left nursing, where me and my husband are running a business. I'm working at church part-time. I'm kind of entering motherhood. And we are running on fumes, as so many first-time parents are. Certainly for me, I slipped into a real sense of striving. And hindsight has helped me to realize kind of the state that I was in there. There's this beautiful story from the Gospel of Luke, and it's where Jesus enters the home of 2 sisters, Martha and Mary. And Martha is busying herself with all the tasks that she has to do. And Mary, on the other hand, is just sitting at the feet of Jesus and enjoying his presence. And I was very much doing a Martha. As a lot of mums are, motherhood is uniquely busy, and there are just simply a lot of tasks to do. And I was finding myself really wrestling during that season of my life of wanting to give myself grace and wanting to find rest, and also wanting to preserve time to just sit at his feet and enjoy God's presence. And so life's feeling really busy at this stage of my life. We're running businesses, I'm trying to preserve my time with the Lord. We're serving at church, which we really wanted to do. All the while, my family still don't know Jesus, and we're trying to witness to them and kind of be faithful in our pursuit and fervently praying for them. And then, we fell pregnant. Sadly, we had a miscarriage, a pain that was very, very acute at the time. And so amidst all of that, we're feeling probably the busiest that we had ever felt up until that point. And right in the middle of all of that busyness, I get a phone call from my mum explaining that my sister, who at the time was 37 years old and had gone into hospital with pancreatitis, had had an unwitnessed arrest on the wards at the hospital, and we were going to wait and see what the next 24 hours held for her, but we went in the next day to find out that she was brain dead, and she ended up passing 11 days later. My family still didn't know Jesus, and my sister, and very specifically my sister, was my impossible prayer, and someone that I had been praying for since the moment I became a Christian. And so my hope in that moment was completely shattered. I really expected to have more time to share the gospel with her, and so many weighty emotions kind of plagued me in the 18 months after her passing. And all the while, my husband and I are still trying to witness to my family, even though my worldview was in the midst of crumbling. I felt in that time just a flood of all sorts of emotions. Doubt, fear, worry, lacking assurance, anger, and eventually all those emotions kind of morphed into a real apathy and a real indifference with God, which was really hard and very new, and I think it was just a sign that my soul was very tired. And to be honest, going through it, I wasn't sure if or at what point I would come back from the very twisted kind of headspace that I found myself in during that time. And not much helped, but I want to share with you a few things that did. First is good and godly friends. We were able to be very open with people, with our close circle of friends, and those particular people were really able to speak truth and life over me, and to intercede in prayer for me when I felt like I couldn't do it. The second is that my emotions, as I shared, were just all over the place, right? And us ladies, at the best of times, our emotions are still like this. And I very much found myself there, just completely all over the place, really struggling to anchor myself and my emotions. And I held on to a promise of God during that time, and I didn't feel that it was true, but I knew that it was true. And the promise was, I don't feel this right now, but I know that He's faithful to me in this season. And so I clung to that promise that I knew to be true, and I clung to the logic that I found in that, because quite frankly, I couldn't trust the emotional roller coaster that I found myself on. And the third thing is some verses from Matthew that I would love to share with you. And I treasured these verses before this season of my life, but my goodness, I just love how God just illuminates things when we need to hear them, and these particular verses from Matthew 11 just cut through in a whole new way for me. and I'd love to share them with you. This is Jesus' words. Matthew 11, verse 28. He says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And those words, finding rest for my soul, I knew that that was exactly what I was craving. It's what I was craving when I was 21 and experiencing anxiety. It's what I was craving as a new mother who was just in this constant state of striving. And it's what I craved in my deepest sorrow and in my doubt. Praise God for His faithfulness, because I did eventually find that rest as I entered back into reading His Word, as I very slowly entered back into prayer, as I sat at His feet, as I grew in my understanding of His sovereignty and His goodness and the mysterious ways that He works. And God really did use my suffering over and over again to propel me towards Him. Many conversations kicked off with my family after my sister's passing, and my brother is now attending church and reading his Bible, which is a miracle in and of itself. And I will continue to ask God to be merciful and save my family, and I will continue praying bold prayers and being more urgent and trusting in His goodness and in His divine justice. And if nothing else, I just want to continue to pursue His presence and sit at His feet and enjoy Him, because I know that apart from Him, I can do nothing of great significance.